Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live session with me, Murtaza Hedamota from BTH Properties. Today we have got a world renowned architect, Roberto, who is joining us with regards to the properties that he's designed, his career. I mean, he's achieved a lot in the past. If you see his profile, it's got a lot of property, designs that he's done and luxury designs that he's worked with. Hey, Mike. Hope all's well. Sorry, I've got another live session with an architect, quite a luxury designed architect. Here we have him, Roberto Di Donato. Hi, Roberto.
Hello.
Hello, how are
Hi,
you?
Murtaza. Very well. How are you?
Good to see you. All
Can you hear
well?
me fine? Yes,
Yep,
all well.
all well, all well. I can hear you well. Um, so we're here today to discuss what you do, your life, your career so far. I mean, I've been following you on Instagram for a while. I've seen your
Fantastic.
the designs that you've sort of designed, the properties that you've designed so far. Um, and I saw a recent one that you were doing on Greswell Road.
Yes.
um, some extension or something that you've designed.
Yeah, this is actually on site now. Despite of the coronavirus, is on site. It's going, we had some problem with the supply chain,
Okay,
especially for the steel.
okay,
The steel structure, that was the only thing that actually was a bit slower.
okay.
Of course, few factories in the UK, they were closed, so obviously construction site they cannot go as fast as they were going
I'm
in
going
a
to come back.
normal case.
I'm going to come back on how things are moving for you during this whole COVID situation. And obviously, because you're Italian, I want to have a view of how things have been going on in Italy
Yeah,
also. It'll be a good topic to discuss. So before we start, if you can introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do, and then we can get the conversation going.
sure. So my name is Roberto Di Donato. I'm an architect, and I've been running my practice, Roberto Di Donato Architecture. I started on about 6.5 years ago,
Okay.
and everything started, I would say, almost by accident. So it was not really planned to start on my own.
Uh,
Is
I mean, did you always plan to be an architect?
absolutely yes, and I knew that in the future I wanted to have my own firm.
Okay.
But the actual moment when I found my first client and I started my first project, it was absolutely unforeseen. It happened from one day to another. And the beauty of that moment is that I was not ready, but I was ready because in the moment of my life I was already bored in the firm where I was working, and I was already looking for new opportunities. And
Um,
so
so just starting off, I mean, my question to you that you always thought about being an architect. So can I just ask you, I mean, architects, do they, I mean, have a fascination of playing with Lego when they're young?
of course, your
That's
your
how
wife,
she is an architect. She's
yeah.
an
So
architect.
the same for her. Makes sense. Yeah, I was really playing with Lego a lot,
Yeah.
and
And that's
but
what built you up towards, that's what sort of, or
I,
the thing with my wife is that she never thought that she's going to be an architect. Her father is an architect,
oh wow,
fully qualified, and he's very well renowned in our community because he's designed quite a few mosques, quite a few Islamic schools around the world, projects all the way from Malaysia and the Southeast Asia to America, Houston. So he's done,
fantastic.
he's designed mosques all over the place. So when in our community, what we have is we have like how you have the Pope, we have a priest as well, and when she finished her GCSEs and A levels, and she was pretty good at economics, and she was pretty good at drawing, and then so she presented both the subjects to the priest and said, which one should I go for? And he asked him, what does your father do? And
No.
and she said architecture, and that's
Oh
how
wow.
her that's how she got into architecture. So that's her
I
part of the
see.
story. So there was, for her, there was nothing like Lego or anything in there. But we're here today to talk about you. So take
I
me
see.
through that journey from Legos to I mean, did you always have that art design when you were at school, when you were at college, when you were at university? Did you always have that good vision that this is okay, this is what I want to do, and this is exactly what I'm going to achieve?
Let's say that I've always been a very practical person. I wouldn't say that I was really into art.
Okay.
I was able to draw as a kid,
Were you
but
able
then
to draw a straight line without moving?
yes, but then when I went to school, when I went to uni in the
Yeah.
architecture university, I discovered I was not good at all. So
Seriously. So this was
comparing
all in your head.
comparing, of course you can be quite good at something, but when you compare yourself with someone that's been doing art doing all their lives, then you
Yeah.
discover that you're not as good as drawing. And I have to say that when I was studying, this was a little bit of a trauma for me, but I completely.
You mean at university?
Yes, I
Okay.
became a bit shy. I was shy when I had to draw something,
Seriously.
but
So
this
it had a bit of a negative impact
a
on.
little bit,
Okay.
but then of course I developed other skills, and only when I was working in the professional world, I gained back my confidence in drawing things just by hand. So my drawings are not pretty, but I can communicate very
With
well
what
with
you want
them, I
to
would say.
show.
Yes, I mean, if I draw something, people understand what I'm talking about, and this is this is what you
So
want.
if you draw a wall, people will not think you've drawn a
Yeah.
ceiling or something.
And also, I think this is important. It's important. Drawing by hand still, even nowadays where you've got computers, is super important just to develop the project, because
Indeed.
it's a way of thinking. I mean, the architect doesn't sit and think. The
Yeah.
architect sit and think, designing things, trying new routes and trying the right route. And
Can I ask you a question? Do you prefer drawing, or do you prefer what's that software called?
any sort of CAD or 3D
AutoCAD. That's
models,
it, AutoCAD. Do you
you
prefer drawing or AutoCAD?
you need to do both of them, and drawing is super important. When all the people working with me, I'm always telling them you need to spend a certain amount of time with the computer, but at some point you need to print what you're doing and you need to sketch over by hand, because it's the quickest way. It's very easy to scroll with your mouse over a black screen for hours, but at some point you need to go back to the table and think. And also, this is something that nowadays, this is probably what we miss with this remote working now, sitting around the table and discussing ideas, sketching with a pencil, everybody with a pencil. This is probably what now is missing. And
But
and also
I'm sure it will come
it will
through
come
in.
back. It will come back. Yeah. And now,
Um. Yeah.
please.
Go ahead.
I was saying that, of course, you've got Zoom, you've got all this.
But it's still not
Uh,
bad. It's still not.
is
It's
if there was the possibility of sketching over the screen and or over a table in
Yep.
real time, that
Yep.
would be. But still, you don't have the physical contact, and you don't have the incident creativity moment where you are walking behind your colleagues and you see something on the screen and say, oh yes,
This
actually
works.
this works. This, you don't have this, or just by walking the street and seeing
Yep. Yep.
something.
Yep.
So
So taking through, I mean, did you do your schooling and college in Italy?
yes, so
Where in Italy are you from originally?
I am from a town in the center of Italy. It's called Pescara. So
Okay.
it's a small town. It's not a touristic place. It's It's not even.
Hard hit by COVID right now?
Yes, but it's not of course, COVID is everywhere, but it was not one of the red zones.
Okay,
So
cool.
everybody at home is fine,
Family
and
is safe.
family is safe. Everybody's okay. I've
So,
just yeah.
so coming back to college and then university. So did you do university in Italy or did you do it in UK?
I did university in Italy, in Milan. I went
Okay.
to Milan to Politecnico,
Okay.
and
Is it
then
one of the best universities for architecture?
it is it is it
I
is,
mean,
but
Roman architecture is, would you say it's the oldest architecture in the world?
probably not. But this as university, I don't know which one is the
Okay.
oldest university, but
Okay.
let's
No,
say
not
that
the oldest, but in terms
no,
of civilization,
no, it's not.
no, it's not. Okay.
No, it's not. But of course, let's say that we have a very rich heritage of built culture
All
all
around the
around.
world.
Yeah, yeah. And but Milan is a very good university, and at that time there were actually two different universities of architecture in Milan.
Okay.
But I believe that is always a bit misleading thinking which one is the best. I think that every university, even within the same university, depending on who is your professor, you will learn different things.
Okay.
And I believe that it's very important to experience different things. And actually, this is where I was going to go. That in my fourth year of architecture, I had this year exchange in Spain. I went to Valencia.
Again, very rich in heritage. I mean, Spain.
Yes,
Yeah.
Spain as well is and more than that, during those years, Spain had a very booming architecture during the 90s, 2000. Everybody was an architect. They were investing a lot of money. There was the economy was booming. They built a lot.
Yep.
And so it was a very good place to be at that time. And I wouldn't say that it was better. It was different. And when I went back to Milan for my last year, I have to say that I could harvest what I was experiencing in Spain, and I think that this is important.
Did you see a major difference between Italy and Spain, the architecture?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. It's architecture, of course, was very different. I have to say that in Milan, where I was living, during a decade, not too much was happening.
Okay.
Whether in Spain, they were building everywhere. There were museums everywhere. The architecture was a big thing at that time. But even at uni, Spain is much more practical. And Spanish architects, even nowadays, they are the most prepared from a technical point of view.
Who's still that church is still getting built in Barcelona? Gaudi. Yeah. It's still getting built, right?
I think so. There is always something going on there. It's never finished.
I mean, once my wife has told me the story at least about 5 times. She forgets that she's told me the story. It's about Gaudi. You know, he was looking at the back and he didn't see the train, and the train sort of took it. I mean, but yeah. Anyways, so you studied in Italy. You studied in Spain.
Yeah.
But then now you're working.
Why London?
Why London?
So why London?
And when you finished your studies in Italy, did you start something there, or no? You came directly to London.
No. I worked in Italy, and so I finished my studies in 2007.
Okay.
And the world was a different world at that time.
Yep, totally different.
Totally different. I went on holidays after my dissertation for a few months. Then I went back to Milan, I remember, in December, and just to look for work.
Okay.
And I got offered probably 7 to 10 different jobs. I mean, I remember I printed 10 of my portfolios, and I gave around probably 7 or 8 architecture firms. And then among those offers that I received, I decided to go and work for an architectural firm that actually was based here in London. Okay. So he had 2 different offices.
All right. So they were in. Okay. So now I can see the journey.
Yes.
Happening. Okay.
And this architect is called Claudio Silvestri, is still active, still working, and it was one of my, I would say I was very inspired by his works during my
University
studies.
years. Okay.
Yes, so it was not an accident. I
You
ended up in the
actually,
right office.
okay. And then when
Yeah.
you got the offer, you thought no, because you've sort of looked at him as, how would you call it, your hero, kind of
Well,
inspiration?
it was
Insp
one of my was my one of my heroes. Let's say that in Milan, I actually turned down other better offers just to work with this practice,
Gotcha.
and I worked there for about a year and a half,
Okay.
and half of this time it was a dream. It was beautiful. We were working on amazing projects, amazing team. I
And
I, I
were you in direct contact with the chief
Yes,
architect? Okay.
yes. Claudio, he was traveling. I mean, he was basically spending half of his time in London, half of his time in Milan,
Okay.
and he also at that time he really liked the team in Milan. So when he was coming to Milan, he was relaxed, was enjoying it. Then was coming to London, everything was a everything was a
Busy.
problem.
And do you find that yourself as well right now, like being in Italy to being in London? Do you find life like a drastic change to being slow paced and really busy?
Well, but I would say yes, but it's also because I like being busy. So
Okay.
I like going out. I like meeting people. But Milan, of course, is not comparable to
London.
London.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
But also in Milan, if you want, you can find you can get,
There is life out there
yeah,
also.
you can get yourself busy if you
Okay.
want.
Cool.
But and yes, and so this is what happened. And at some point, the recession hit, and after a few months, we found 90% of the office in the street. So yes, and so the architect he really wanted to keep the team, keep everybody, and he resisted up to the very last moment, and then yeah,
So
so
I mean, the reason he let everyone go is because there was not design
we
work going on or
we were
building.
working and we were myself especially, I was working in a couple of projects in Singapore,
Okay.
and they were very very high-end residential projects, and they just stopped. So they went on hold, and other projects went on hold, and new projects didn't were not coming in. Uh,
But how can you, sorry, I'm asking you this question, but how can you put a building on hold? Okay, in construction you can, fair enough.
yeah.
But when you're designing, how can you put that on hold? Because the architect who's been designing it will know how to finish it. How can another architect take, let's say I'm an architect, you're an architect, and you started something, that person put that design on hold, and then he didn't want to work with you, and then he bought me in. So how am I
No,
supposed to
no, no, no,
carry?
no,
Okay,
no, no,
sorry.
no, no. There was no other. It's just that those developers, they just decided not to do investment in the time in the specific moment. So everything stopped.
Got you.
It's a little bit what is happening now. A
Yeah,
lot of clients,
stuck.
they're very careful. They're
Yeah,
careful about no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. The
exactly.
work can be a different work tomorrow. So this is what is happening. That maybe you've got someone that is. And this is my case. I had a couple of potential projects that were about to come in of a investor that were buying an entire building to refurbish it and sell. Maybe it's not the right moment. Maybe we wait, and so
Got
you
you.
don't have the project. And this is what happened at that time. And so after this, for about a year, I worked in Milan again.
Okay.
I was lucky enough. One of my colleagues, she used to be my boss in the office. She won a competition. Well, she got shortlisted for a competition with her husband, and they needed some help. And as she was used to work with me, she brought me in, and
Got
so
you.
I worked with them for about a year, and again, it was an amazing experience because they're very good mates and they're very good artists, and I'm still in contact with them. And but to be honest, I was feeling at that time that I didn't want to spend my entire life in Milan.
Got you.
So I most of the time people talk about the people coming from Europe because there was no job no work in Europe. It's true, but in many cases, people from Europe, they come to London also because they are looking for a different experience. And this is what happened to me. I quit that job to come to London without anything, nothing at all.
So it was because I was thinking that maybe the transition happened within the company that you were working for, but no, this is a complete different transition mode.
This is a completely different transition mode, and actually, at some point, this company was doing I mean, of course, project came back at some point, but I was in a different phase of my life, so I didn't want to go back to that dream and spoil it. I prefer to do something else. And
so, when did you come here? What year did you?
I think it was 2010.
2010.
10 years
and
ago.
then did you instantly, I mean, when you came here, did you find a place to work and live before you got here, or no, you just got here and then?
Yes, I had many friends in London, so at least I had some support from social support, let's say, and I had been here before, so I knew how to navigate the city a little bit, and also how to navigate the architectural world.
Gotcha.
Because it's of course there are similarities, but it's different, the system in Italy or in the UK. So if you're looking for a job, you need to know how it works here.
Did you have to register yourself with the RIBA?
Not straight away, but after a couple of years, I did that.
After working for a company, and they must have asked you to get that done, or no?
No one asked, but I wanted to do it. So, but let's say that in the way it works for European people, or they used to work, and now I don't know how they do it practically. Probably it's a bit different. But if you are a registered architect in your country, you need to do some paperwork.
Exactly.
It's a matter of time.
That's what they've told my wife as well, because she's done her bachelor's from Pakistan.
Yeah.
There's one thing of being a European qualified architect, and there's one thing of being a Pakistani or an Indian qualified architect, because the frame of work is totally different. Like you mentioned, even Europe, being London and Italy, it's the same, but yet different countries, different styles, different designs, different ways of working. And they actually told her that you would have to study your final year of bachelor's again here.
Yeah.
And then get to the RIBA registration stage or whatever that she has to do. So she would have to study part of her bachelor's again. But she's not had the time yet, because since we were married, we had kids, and 10 years just
I know.
10 years just came out in all of that. So when you came here, what company did you start working for?
So I started working in a very small company, and after 5 months,
in central London or
in central London, yes. Okay. And after only 5 months, I got offered a job at Foster and Partners, which
So you're working in that Albion Riverside.
By the Albion,
Okay.
The Albion was built by Foster's.
Yep.
It's mostly, but the main office is literally the building next door, and actually it's called the campus. There are about 1,500 people working there, and there are a few buildings.
Yeah.
That they're all connected somehow. And
I sold. Well, I like to talk about it a bit, because it's not that there are two things. I sold an apartment in Battersea Power Station, but not only did I sell an apartment in Battersea Power Station, I sold a building which was designed by Norman Foster. So it's a great tag to have to my name. It's good. So Norman Foster, how was it? How was the environment compared to working in the inspiration that you grew up to working, and then working for Norman Foster?
So Norman Foster is an amazing experience that I would recommend almost to everybody, but I think that you need to know exactly what you're doing there, because it's a big company, And as every big company, it's very easy to get sucked into a mechanism of just working as a machine, and
To get lost, basically.
you can get lost quite easily, and also is a fun place, because most of the people working there, they are under 30, under 40 years old, and there are people from all over in the planet. So there are so many nationalities, and and everybody's creative, everybody's there for a reason. So you meet amazing people. This is probably the best thing of working for Foster and Partner, the people that you meet.
Do you think that was because he's got such a name around the world, and the buildings that he's designed, a lot of people, like you saw Claudio as your inspiration, a lot of people must have seen Norman Foster as their inspiration. And
absolutely,
the first thing when they leave there, when they finish their degree, or possibly got some sort of experience, and once that experience is finished, they would tender to go for Norman Foster.
absolutely. I mean, I think that, of course, if you love Norman Foster, that's a no-brainer. You go there because that's your dream. But even if you do not,
weird designs, but still world famous.
You go for it. It's probably the most prestigious firm in the world. Of course, if you are in London, you're looking for a job, and you just graduated, you're gonna try it.
I mean, my wife, she's always talking about Foster, Zaha Hadid, and this guy, the guy who got knocked over by the train.
Oh, Gaudi.
Gaudi. Yeah, these are three main. Then there's a few Pakistani ones that she speaks about, but yeah, mainly it's always this. So how long did you?
I worked there for about almost 3 years, 2 years and 10 months, something like that. And
forgot to ask you, when you were at Claudio.
Yes.
What was the best project you designed that you worked something on from start to finish?
So this is a very interesting thing that I couldn't see the finish of anything, because it was a year and a half, and because of the recession, at Claudio's I didn't get the site experience. So
you started stuff, but you never got to sort of.
I never got to site, and this is a very interesting thing of my career, my experience, that I never had the chance to take to site a project in other firms. The first project that I've seen finished, it was my own one.
No way.
Yes, and to be honest, it's just bad luck, and because even at Foster's, I worked for during most of the first year. I was working for an arena in Abu Dhabi. Amazing project, amazing team, but
everything was done in-house, basically.
No. It's just that for some, I don't even remember the detail, but basically the client was kind of the royal family, and they just decided that this arena didn't have to be there. So they just after millions invested in the project, they just said, you know what, no, we're gonna do it somewhere else.
But so did they do it somewhere else? Did Norman Foster's?
I did not follow up. But probably not Norman Foster, but I don't even know if this was done or not. It was, this was the first project I worked. Well, this was one project. The second one I worked on, it was, I did a couple of developments in China.
Okay.
And with few towers and
this was with Foster's and Partner.
This is still at Foster's, yeah. Okay. Then I'm from Abu Dhabi, China. And those projects, they are now partially built, and we are talking about probably 2002 or something. And to give you an idea, the last tower, the biggest tower of this development, was planned to be finished by 2024. So this is
a 20-year project.
Way too long.
Wow.
Way too long to wait.
Wow.
And the last project I worked on, I also worked on some smaller stuff, but those three there, let's say the three major ones. Another project was a museum in Abu Dhabi again, for Sheikh Zayed Museum. And this was a project that was already on site before I joined the company.
Okay.
Then,
So you were
then it's,
just so were you just tweaking it, kind of changing
well,
it?
we changed it completely. Then the project stopped. Then it
Okay.
went back to design again. We did the redesign again, and then it stopped. Then I left. I left the company. As far as I know, they're still designing it.
Seriously.
Yes.
Oh.
So it's
I
been
don't
a,
I don't want to talk how the Arabs deal with work, but that's another subject we can.
well, I think that there is the real reason why this happened is because the museum is a museum that is there to celebrate
The life
the
of Sheikh Zayed.
exactly, and there was not really a collection, and probably was not there was not such a big priority. And it is in the same development where you have the new Louvre by Jean Nouvel.
Yep.
There's a museum from Franco, the Guggenheim from Franco Gehry.
Yep.
There was one from Zaha, so it was the same development. All the big stars
All the big
building in
stars,
there.
all the big stars of the architectural world. Just want to ask you, when Foster's and Partners open their mouth to charge someone for the design, where does it start?
No, I've no idea. I have no idea.
Seriously?
If I know, it's just rumors, and it's bad if I don't say.
I mean, a world class architect, right? So I mean,
even if I knew, I wouldn't
you
be
couldn't
saying
say it.
that.
I mean, I've got immense respect for people like him. You know, I mean, the buildings are they shape the city, they shape the world we live in today. Kind of, you know. I don't know. So then you finished Foster's and Partners in what year exactly?
So basically, this was 6 years ago. We were talking about. It was the end of
2014.
2003. So it's 2013. So
Yeah.
let's say that by January 2014, I was working. My last day at Foster and Partner was the last Friday of the year.
Wow.
So I remember that.
So you still remember that. It's always good to have these special moments on a special occasion, right? So you can like for me, we have our Independence Day of Pakistan on the 14th of August, right? And because you said this, I'm going to share this with you. Independence Day on the 14th of August. Independence from who? The British, right? 14th of August, 2014 is when I became British.
So now you're not independent anymore.
I'm not independent. So 6 years ago, you started your company.
Yeah.
What hardships did you face?
So basically, what happened at that time is that.
And were you working on your own, or was there a partner?
No, I was just on my own at that time. What happened is that I was working at Foster, and I was already tired. I was interviewing in other offices. I wanted to do something else, and suddenly I found a client out of nowhere. It was a man living in London, a British man, who went on holidays to Spain, and he found accommodation in the flat of a friend of mine. And just chatting with her, he said, "I'm refurbishing my flat in London, but
and she said,
yeah, I mean, well, he was like, I don't like what my architect is proposing." And my friend said, "I have a friend in London. Do you want his number?" "Yes, please." He came back to London. He got in contact with me, and I went there. We had a chat for the first half an hour. We both thought we're not gonna go anywhere here.
Yeah.
And then we clicked. And after 3 days, I came back to.
So you mentioned that for half an hour you're talking, and you thought you were not. It wasn't.
No, we were really.
What made it click?
I've been honest with him. I told him what I really thought about what they were doing, the good and the bad, and he listened to me.
Okay. So that's what sort of.
I think Yeah, I think that,
You analyze that other person's project basically.
yes, but I was not criticizing the work done, and I've
You're
just
just giving
been,
him the pros and the cons basically.
yes, and the main, now of course we don't want to get into the detail, but the main thing that I said is that they were investing a lot of energy in one part of the house that was already beautiful, where another part of the house that deserved more attention was completely left behind.
So this was your
And
first project, or
this was my,
your solo project?
yes, and then
Can I ask
after
which area of London was it in?
this is in Warwick Avenue, Little
Okay.
Venice.
Yep. Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful house.
Okay.
Beautiful, was a flat in very very nice,
Okay.
and great client. I'm still working with him. We actually, I have to say that for the first few years, I got most of my projects by word of mouth, and I did many other projects with the same client, and I worked for friends of him and friends of friends and friends of my friends. Almost 90% was word of mouth. Only
So
after,
that one
yeah,
client led you so many places.
let's say that at the beginning was one client, and then after a couple of years, friends of mine, they had some friends, and so I never really advertised
You
for
never
myself.
advertised.
No,
So
and I should do that.
would you say this is your first advertisement?
Well, no, of course, I mean the social media,
Social
and
media.
you have social media, but let's say that I know that I should be looking for clients, because there are
I mean, I've
clients
seen your
out there.
profile, the amount of stuff. I mean, some of the stuff that you've got on there, the designs that you've done. I mean, they look amazing.
Thank you.
Um, so that was that 90%. Now you're 90% of it is coming from word of mouth. If you're getting 90% of your work from word of mouth, where's the 10% coming from?
The 10%, there are people that found me almost accidentally.
Social
Uh,
media or on the
well,
internet?
I would say that social media in my case is bringing a lot of collaborators, but finding a client on a social media so far didn't happen. I haven't found a client that, oh, I've seen you on Instagram, please do my house. No, but the what happened to me is that
Do you think that would happen? Putting the reason I ask this is possibly your client or anyone who's looking for stuff, they have not been on social media having this perspective in mind, what we're living in right now, the digital world.
yeah.
Do you think moving on from the lockdown, the COVID and everything, do you think that this might change if you were to advertise yourself better on social media?
I think it will. I think it will, and I believe so. For example, I never paid for advertisement on social media, so because the is not targeted what I'm showing there.
Yeah,
But of course, it gives you indirectly, it gives you a lot of credibility, and also what is happening is that other, this is my interpretation of the SEO without being an expert.
yeah,
But I believe that when you've got connection to other websites and other, somehow the net is getting you somewhere.
exactly.
And so this my 10% didn't get to direct contact on a social media, but there were people, for example, Google, for example, you just bought a house in a certain street. You Google the name of your street, and the project come up of the
Of your project came up.
I
Yep.
did in
Yep.
the not even in the same street, but in the street
Next
in
to it or
next
something.
door, and this is
Ha-
what happened in a couple of
ha-
occasions.
this has happened to you.
Yes, and also some clients, not everybody, checks for planning application. So this is a great thing. I mean, in the UK, not everybody knows, but planning applications, they are public. So
Of course.
you
Everyone knows
can,
that.
well, not everybody, not everybody. Many people,
If you're a developer,
if you're a developer, you know
if
that,
you're
but
an architect,
yeah,
if you're an engineer, if you're an investor in terms of having that mindset that, okay, you can develop that property, then possibly you would check it, right? Or a broker
Yes.
also, like me, for example, if someone sends me a development site, and if they don't have the planning application number, on the planning portal, you can put the address, and the
Yeah.
planning will follow. So yes, you're right in
You
terms that
check.
people don't know, but yet people who know, they would always look at that.
They will check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say that the common public, private, who is not involved into properties, they don't even know, or even if they know, they don't try. But some of them, they do try, and it happened to me that some clients found my project on other planning applications.
And they called you for the same sort of planning.
Yes. So
Great.
this is also, and this is why I believe that doing a nice planning application, even with a nice quality drawings, is quite important.
Great stuff. So far, what's the best project you've done?
Interesting. So,
Or maybe I'll give you a choice. Name your top three.
so my top three, I have to say,
Maybe let's make it more interesting. Price-wise,
yeah.
design-wise, space-wise.
Okay, that's a good one. So one of them, it can be on top of those three categories,
Yeah.
and because it's probably the project with the smallest budget that I did, and it was the one that was most successful on magazines, on books, on social media, websites. It got published almost everywhere. This is a flat in Spain.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful flat. It's extremely small. It's 60 square meters. It's almost a big studio flat, but you can close the bedroom in the flat. And so
Like
the space,
like a bachelor pad, basically.
yes, but more than a bachelor pad in that case, I would say there is a flat where someone from London goes for a weekend to Valencia.
Okay, got you. Okay.
And so of course you don't have all the requirements, or you don't have the baby crying in one room and you want to sleep. So it's and this flat was it was fantastic. The space was beautiful, and I think that we did an amazing job using the right money in the right places, with very strong design concepts. And
did it look over the beach or something?
no,
Scenic?
not at all, not at all. It's in a narrow street in the city, the real center of Valencia, but in front there is just another building.
Okay.
It's just that the space itself is beautiful, and we decided not to clad it up and cover it up.
Gotcha.
So we just provided the right construction where it was needed, also for all the amenities, all the.
Hello. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, and so that could be on top of all of that. Then there was another flat that I did many years ago.
This one that we spoke about in Valencia, was that price wise, or space wise, or design wise?
It could be for
All three.
for all three.
Okay,
It could be,
great stuff.
but let's say what was that price, design
Space.
and space. Okay, let's put it for price, but as I said, it could this covers all of those three.
Super.
Then I did one for price many years ago with there was an investment property, very small, in let's say Kilburn.
Okay.
It was cute. The flat, it was a cute flat inside a Victorian house, and what we managed to do was to do a 2-bedroom flat out of a 1-bedroom flat, but every single room looks decently spaced. So
did you bring the kitchen outside and make it an open plan sort of living space?
It was already an open plan.
Oh,
we just shuffled the position of the bathroom, and it's a project that went down to the millimeter, and it came out. It was fantastic. The client sold it straight away in 2 weeks. The house was sold.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it went. Space was great, but economically for the client was a great maneuver.
Super.
And design wise, this is I have to say at the moment I'm doing a project in Bolivia,
Wow.
and is the client
Was it a
was
word of mouth or internet?
yes, yeah, no, word of mouth. The client before was in London, and now he retired and he
Okay.
decided to move to Bolivia, and the we did a very very interesting project.
So you've
And
already gone there? You've been on site, you've seen the
I
place.
went. So the project is on site now, but I didn't go on site. I went there, of course,
Okay.
before. So I started the design without going there. Then I went there. I spent about 2 weeks there, also to enjoy the place and to get to know people, because of course we were looking for a local architect. We're looking for a lot of connection there, and so I spent about 2 weeks there, and then we finalized the design here in London.
You
And
mentioned local architect.
yeah,
So if you do not know a particular country or the design that you could do in that particular country, you would always recommend to get on board a local architect to make you understand that, or no, it's not necessary. You can go with your own mindset and do it.
let's say that I think that there are a lot of reasons why having a local architect it would be a good choice, even if you knew all those things, because
Language would
when
be one of those, right?
well, in my case I speak Spanish, so there
Okay,
was
all right.
not a problem at all. But let's say that sometimes it would be great to have a local architect even in London, so that you care about certain things, and then there is
Gotcha.
someone specifically
Yeah.
taking care of the construction. But let's say that in every country is different. For example, in Bolivia, architects, they are also contractors.
It's the same
So
in
there's
Pakistan.
same in Pakistan. See, so in this case, the architect is also building, is acting as both things.
So he's looking after the whole thing, the design, the drawings, all that kind of stuff, and
Yes,
it makes it easy.
and then thinking about one thing that can be said about working in different countries, that of course when you're working in a country that you don't know, you will clash with a lot of idiosyncrasies or things that they are different from how you do things. Let's say
Yep.
that in Bolivia you cannot build a glass box. It's not going to work. Is
Mm.
in Bolivia is hot most of the
Yep,
time.
yep, yep,
The
yep, yep.
climate, and up to very specific things about winds, about there are a lot of things that you need to know. You need to know about the construction. You need to know about what people can do there as well. Because of course, unless you are Norman Foster, for example, you can go pretty much everywhere and do whatever you
And do
want.
what you want. Yep.
I think it is good to go to a specific country and do what people can do there.
It's always good to understand what the country can offer and what you sort of how you should work according to that sort of offer
Yes.
and put your perspective in mind. Um, so we've got 12 minutes left because Instagram gives us an hour's worth of session. Um, quick question. How are you adopting yourself currently? How do you see yourself working after lockdown? If you can answer me these two questions, the last question would be, what's the advice to an architect, a young generation, someone who's starting their career? What should they look at? So let's talk about how are you working right now
Yeah.
and what are the measures you're going to take to work forward in the
Yes.
future?
So first of all, I have to say that we are quite lucky in the UK. Well, there are pros and cons, but the fact that they didn't close construction site
Everything. Yep, yep.
allowed us to. I've got two projects at the moment on site in London, so they are still working. Of course, they're going slow, and it's not great,
You
but they're
can't have
still.
all the builders on site at once. You can have maybe three, four, two, or something like that, you know.
Yes, they. Of course, you don't want to pack the site.
Yep.
You have to be very careful because there are still lives, and And also because, as I was saying before, there is a problem. The was, at least now, it's getting better. It looks with the probably with the supply chain. So materials, they were not really easily available. And so we are quite lucky in the UK because not everything shut down, but also, as we said at the beginning, a lot of investors now, they're not investing money. So obviously our industry took the hit of the virus, as many other, even much more than
I mean,
this.
82 billion worth of transactions are on hold right now.
So
82 billion pounds worth of transactions, property transactions.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in my case, I could see that a little bit earlier than other people in the UK, but just because being Italian and having my family in Italy, and also I have two projects in Italy. So currently I've got two projects. Well, one is on hold, so because the construction works they haven't opened yet, and the other project, it was not on site yet.
Okay.
So
just background work basically.
Yeah, they both stopped. At some point, both clients said, "We're doing nothing. Don't even call me because I've got other thing to think about." And so I could see that this was going to come probably here as well. And as I said, I had a couple of potential here in London. At the moment, they are still on hold. And luckily, we managed to keep going with those two construction sites, and then we invested some time on, for example, we did a competition
within your company.
Yes, well, a competition, architecture competition,
okay,
which is something that you invest time hoping that you're gonna win it, but we try to be proactive, and instead of doing nothing, we try to invent some kind of job, and now the competition has been delivered. And I have to say that during the last week, some clients is coming back already came back.
So queries are starting to sort of pick up.
Well, for example, the one in Italy came back. They want to go to site, and apparently on the 18th, construction sites they will open again in Italy.
18th of May.
So
yeah,
I think so. If I remember well, it's in the 18th. So they are trying to plan things ahead. And so at least one project is coming back, and I got contacted back from a couple of clients that they want to do other stuff. So things are it looks that they're moving again, but we don't know. And
you can see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Who was saying that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel is not straight. The tunnel is not straight.
Indeed. So, what is your advice to young generation, someone who's looking to start a career or to build a career in the architectural world or design world? What would you tell them?
Yeah. So I'm not extremely positive about the profession, because I think that it's our fault. It's the less paid profession ever for the amount of time that we spend in our studying and also working after. And
my wife tells me this all the time.
But because it's true, and it's our fault. Yeah. Of course, then there are some people, I mean, few architects, they manage to build empires out of architecture. Yeah. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to do the same, but one thing that is super important is that, of course, you need to have design, because otherwise you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate your job every day if you don't have passion for the design. But on the other side, university, school is not telling us that our profession is also a job. So we don't have a business mind. Architects, they're not business people.
Entrepreneurs.
We are not. Most of the time we are not. And so you find yourself getting into the profession, and you have to learn and discover things by doing mistakes. So I think that to young students, they have to have passion for architecture, but they need to understand very early in the process that in order to do a professional career as an architect, you need to get yourself in sales. You need to get yourself in understanding
So
the
you need to
business.
have the entrepreneur business side of the mind along with the design side of the mind.
Yes,
Gotcha.
absolutely. Managing time, managing people, managing money. You need to try to learn these things as early as you possibly can, because designing an amazing project is it's easy. It's not easy, but it's easy. But if you cannot execute that because of the budget,
Sales acumen. Yep.
or because your office, you cannot pay your employees to execute the project, then you're in trouble. So these are things that I think that universities, architectural school, they need to try to give a solution to that.
And would you say that when a newly qualified architect finishes his degree, how many years of experience should they get within a multinational firm or a small firm who's got maybe 1, 2 offices in London? You know, how long of an experience should someone get and then start their company?
I think that is very subjective. I mean, everybody has a different career. Everybody is a different person. And I know people who never worked for a single firm. They started on their own. And during the
Totally.
recession,
Okay.
yeah, I know people that during the recession there were no jobs. It was impossible to find a job. They started doing their own projects at home, inventing projects, doing competition, doing something, and little by little they managed to have an architectural office. And so there are the people who they go and work in a big company and they stay there forever. This is also
I've seen a few of them. Yeah,
you
I
have to
mean,
love it. You have
yeah.
to like it.
Well, I want to finish this on a joke. Why don't architects and engineers get along?
It's not true. It's not true, actually. It's not true. They are. I would love to be an engineer.
One works with steel, one works with the pencil. You know, why don't they get along?
No, I have to say that I get along a lot with the structural engineer I work with. So it's
So on your part, it's okay. You're okay with
yeah,
that.
and to be honest, I find extremely fascinating the world of engineering. I would have loved to be a structural engineer myself, but
Yeah,
it's a bit maybe next life.
maybe in the next life. But anyways, Roberto, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. You know, some of
My pleasure.
the great insights that you shared about your career, your designs, the work that you've done, and what you're doing right now. I wish you all the best, you know, for future projects, and I hope that I will see your project amongst the stars one day. So good luck with that.
Thank you very much, family.
Take care.
Have a good day. Take
You
care.
too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Well, an amazing live session I've had with Roberto, an architect from Italy, currently running his studio, his architectural design work in London. If you're interested in getting your house designed or whatever questions you may have from Roberto regarding architecture, do give him a shout, send him a follow, and I'm sure he will reply to your questions. So thank you so much to all those that tuned in for the live session this evening. Got a busy day tomorrow. Got a busy day, busy week next week, so it should be good. A lot of live sessions coming in, and I'm enjoying actually doing these. So stay tuned and look after yourself wherever you are. Have a great evening. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Take care. Bye-bye.